I'm Big Mama Eagle, and you already know I'm going to teach you how to sew. In this video, I'm going to show you how to alter jeans like a professional, and we'll be taking in the waistband. Whether you're going to tackle this common alteration for yourself or for a client, I will show you how to get a perfect fit and a flawless finish. Come on, let's get started. Outside of your normal sewing tools, what you'll want to make sure you have on hand for this alteration is matching thread. You'll need denim thread and top stitching thread, and you especially want to make sure to match that top stitching thread as closely as possible for the best result. When fitting these jeans on my client, I used a large safety pin to mark how tight the new waistband should be. Back at my sewing table, I placed a safety pin on each side of the waistband, right next to this pin, being careful not to go through both layers. Then I removed the original pin. Next, I measured the distance between the two safety pins. For this alteration, the distance is 3 1/8 inches, or 8 centimeters. This measurement tells me how much fabric to remove from the waistband and the waist of the jeans. Once I write this measurement down, I remove the pins and start the first step, removing the waistband. I don't take off the entire waistband, just the back portion. It gives me enough room to work. I remove it starting near the side seams, and I also remove the center back belt loop completely and partially detach the side belt loops. The next step is to remove most of the stitching from the pockets. This is necessary because I'll be adding deep darts to take in the waist, and the dart points will fall behind the pockets. By removing the pockets, I have space to work, and I will be able to lay them down nice and flat when I'm finished. So now that the waistband and pockets are removed, let's talk a little bit about darts. A dart is a fold of fabric that shapes a garment and removes excess fabric. It's triangular in shape with a wide top that tapers to a point. Folding along the dart's 3 points removes the extra fabric. Darts could easily be an entire video all on their own, but here's the most important thing you need to know for this process. It's instinctual to place the top 2 points of the dart even along the horizontal line of the waistband. However, this can result in a broken or uneven yoke, which looks unattractive and is a common complaint with jean alterations. To avoid this, place the top 2 points of the dart parallel to the yoke seam. Aligning the dart this way ensures the yoke remains even, creating a clean, professional finish. I'll be removing about 3 inches from the waist, so I'll divide that into 2 1.5 inch or 4 centimeter darts and put one on each side of the bag. Now I'll show you how to mark your darts. Typically, you're going to make these marks inside of the jeans, but my markings don't show up well on that side of the fabric, so I'll demonstrate on the outside. First, I measure from the center of the yoke seam to the center of the pocket and mark that spot with tailor's chalk. I use a notebook in between just to create a hard surface for marking and measuring. Now my measurement here is roughly 5 inches from the center of the yoke, so I'm going to mark that same measurement on the other side as well, being sure to hold my ruler parallel to the yoke seam while I'm marking. Now this line that I marked will become the center of my darts. I place my ruler against this line and measure down from the waistline 5 inches. This will be the length of my dart. The ruler I'm using here is clear and has lines going through it, and I can use those to help make sure I keep everything in line with my yoke seam. And then I measure down each side to mark the point or apex of my dart. You'll determine the length of your dart based on how wide your dart is. The wider the dart, the deeper it needs to be. Conversely, removing a very small amount from the waistband could require a dart so small that it would not even need to cross through the yoke seam. Just keep in mind that the wider and shorter a dart is, the more curve it creates. To shape this dart, I divide its width, 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, by 2, which gives me 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters. I mark this distance on both sides of the center line. Using a ruler, I connect these marks to the apex to form the dart legs. You will notice that your completed dart slopes slightly off to the side. That's good. This is because it's in line with the yoke seam, not the horizontal waist seam. When the dart is folded and sewn, the yoke seam will remain even and smooth. So just repeat this process on the other side. Now it's time to pin these darts. To keep the pockets out of the way, I'm going to secure them with safety pins. Now I'm going to turn my jeans inside out so I can transfer my dart markings to the inside. While flipping the jeans, I noticed a tag I forgot to remove, so I take care of that before I move on. Now that I have my darts all marked inside, I'm going to pin them. I begin by aligning the markings on the yoke seam and pinning that area first. A neatly aligned yoke makes a huge difference in the finished product and elevates the quality of the alteration. I double check the alignment multiple times, flipping the jeans back and forth to make sure the seams are perfectly matched. I cannot overstate how critical this step is, and it's really worth taking the extra time to get it right. After those seams are aligned, I continue pinning along the dart markings, inserting my pins directly into the lines I've marked to keep everything precise. When you're finished, the pin dart will look like this. Just repeat this process for the second dart. And once both are pinned, it's time to sew them at the machine. I stitch a few stitches forward and then a few back just to secure my threads. From there, I sew slowly along the length of the dart, removing my vertical pins as I come to them. When I near the end of the dart, I lower my stitch length for precision and then sew straight off the fabric. I leave long thread tails and then I tie those into a knot to secure the stitches at the end of my dart. With the dart sewn, we're ready to move on to the next step, taking in the waistband. Now remember, you want to make these marks on the wrong side of your fabric. I'm marking them on the darker side so that they show up better. So the first thing I do is draw a line at the center of the waistband and then use my ruler to measure half of the total waistband reduction on either side of that line. So in this case, I'm removing 3 1/8 inches or 8 centimeters. So I'll mark 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters on each side of the line. I'm going to remove my top stitching from the waistband, starting about 1 inch before and 1 inch after the marks. Removing this top stitching will allow the waistband to lay flat for easier adjustment. I pin the 2 marks together, and from the inside, double check my measurement before drawing myself a guideline. At my machine, I sew along this guideline and then use the scissors to cut the excess fabric in the waistband. Afterward, I press the seam flat with my iron and press my darts down flat. I press them out toward the hips. To reattach the waistband, I start by putting a pin in the darts to make sure they don't shift around. Then I fold the waistband down so that the right side of the jeans faces the wrong side of the waistband, and I pin the raw edges together. I align the center seam of the waistband with the center seam of the pants and pin this spot first for accuracy. You'll notice there's still excess fabric in the waistband. This is intentional as it allows the jeans to be let out again if needed. However, if you don't think you'll need this option, you can trim away the excess fabric to reduce the bulk in that waistband seam. Once our waistband is pinned in place, I begin to sew it, being careful to stitch directly in the fold line of the original seam. After I've sewn the waistband, I remove the pins from the darts and turn the jeans right side out. Now you can really see how seamlessly everything is coming together. Before folding the waistband down to stitch it in place, I sew the original tags back into position. Then I trim away any loose threads, remove any top stitching thread that got left in there, and pin the front of the waistband down. For now, we're going to ignore the belt loops and just focus on securing the waistband. With everything pinned, it's time to return to the sewing machine. For this step, I switch my upper thread to denim top stitching thread. Choosing a color that closely matches the original thread ensures a seamless finish. Once the waistband is stitched from the top and bottom, I go back to sew down the two side belt loops and the tag. Finally, I reattach the center back belt loop, which covers the seam that we created in the waistband. The final step is to reattach the pockets. Using a notebook inside the jeans for support, I pin the pockets into place and sew them down. Once that's done, I trim any loose threads, give the jeans a final press, and admire the professional finish of this alteration. Watch my next video to learn how to hem your jeans like a professional. And if you want to learn more sewing tips from me, subscribe and hit the bell button so you'll get a notification the next time I post here. I'll see you next time. Bye.